Good morning. Welcome to the first of our newly reinstituted CTSI Open Research Office sessions. So we're so glad that you could all join us today. I want you to be aware that there will be time allocated for discussion at the end of the session, but if you have any questions during the session, feel free to use the raise hand option or voice your questions in chat, and we'll be sure to keep an eye out for them. So we want to thank Kim Brunton of the Clinical Research Office for giving her time to discuss central study registration with us today. Without further ado, I will actually hand the session off to her. Thank you.
Thanks, Alexis, and welcome everyone. I just wanted to go, so I am one of the Associate Directors of Operations for the Clinical Research Office, and central study is kind of a little bit of my baby. So we'll kind of go through this rather quickly. Hopefully we'll get to a live demonstration at the end. But as Alexis says, if there's any questions ongoingly, just ask them as you go along, as we go along, or you can save them to the end. But sometimes it's easier to just do it in a timely, while the stuff's on the screen. So as to what we're going to look over today is just an overview and the origins of how central studies came to be, some of the advantages of using the system, establishing when your study needs to be registered and who needs to register their studies, and then some quick do's and don'ts of the system, and how to obtain any assistance that you need with it as well. So as far as origins go, we noted several years ago that there were some shortcomings identified when we pulled some of the investigator. And one of the resounding things that we heard was about redundant data entry into the various systems that we have. There are a lot of different systems at UB that pertain to research. And we kept hearing, it's like, I have to put the study name here, I have to put that here, I have to put, and it was all the same information. So that was a big thing that we needed to try and overcome. One of the other things was the lack of effective communication. So with regard to new or current things that were going on, a lot of times one of the complaints we heard was, I find out that something changed after I've done it the other way that we've done it before. So, this is kind of helping to try and alleviate some of that problem and get some of that information out there as quickly and as expeditiously as we can. The other was the scientific review. There was no scientific review process in place. And what we were finding was things were going to the IRB that were not necessarily ready to go to the IRB. And so there's a mechanism now that for departmental scientific review, and I'll go into it a little bit later, but there are some exceptions that we don't have to send them to the department for review. But again, I'll go into that a little bit later. We don't own our own hospitals. So we have a reporting responsibility to our affiliates. And we really had no way of telling CLIDA, these are the studies that are going on within your institution. So this allows us to give them a report every month and say, this is what's going on. And it has been very well received by our affiliates. And the other was the inability really to report to leadership about the amount and the type of research that was taking place. As many of you know, we have a CTSI, our CTSA award. And one of the big things that we needed to do when we were applying for that was give them an idea of how many clinical trials that we had ongoing. And we didn't have the system in place. We didn't have, and no other place is this a clinical trial. So basically what we ended up doing was going through Click and then looking word searches for randomized, double blind, those types of things to establish some sort of number that we could place into the application for the CTSI. And it really was a glaring realization that we really didn't have that ability to say what type of study we were doing, and just kind of making sure that we knew exactly what our portfolio looked like. So this is just a quick, it's like, these are all the different systems that, actually, these are some of the systems that much of the same information needs to go into. And so by putting all of the information that you need to into central registration, you enter it once. Anything that goes into these other systems from central registration, we will get it in there for you. So it's really becomes, put it in once and save yourself some time down the road. We'll get it into the other systems that need to be, and you may have to add, things that aren't on the registration form, but at least you won't have to be doing duplicative data entry. So our goal is to have all human subjects research done at the university to be registered. Our current mandate right now is all of the health sciences schools. So that is all human subjects research from any of the health sciences schools needs a registration.
Kim?
Yeah.
And just, it's whether it's funded or not, right?
Correct. Yep. This is all, if it involves a human subjects research and it is from one of the health sciences schools, it must be in central registration, and it will be kicked back from the IRB if it is not. The other is the clinical trials, any clinical trials as defined by the NIH that go from any of the other schools outside of the health sciences schools. So they must also be registered. So what it does is it does streamline the process from the time that you have commitment to the trial. So it's not just the IRB approval, it goes through early identification of local, federal, institutional requirements to begin the study. And it helps kind of identify early resources that you may not be aware of, but that we can maybe point you in a direction for. Just a little caveat here, before this all came to play, there was a study that was going through, it involved stem cells, and it had gone through stem cell committee on our side, it had gone through IRB approval, we had everything in place, and went to our affiliate and said, look, here's all the information. They said our lab certificate doesn't support this. So we had everything ready to go, and 8 months later is when we had the certificate that would allow us to do it. So this is all in preparation of making sure that all these parallel processes are happening, so that when you get to the end of things and everything's in place, you're ready to go. So again, as I say, it begins those parallel processes, and it allows you to kind of do that initial data dump. Well, so you IRB, you've got a lot of things that need to be created. Your HIPAA waiver, your consent form, any recruitments, all of those, extraneous things that go on beyond, putting it into the system itself. So we will get that going for you. Like I say, the earlier you get it in, that's fine. You do that data dump. We're going to start working on all that stuff in the background while you do all of those other things, and get those things ready to go. Again, the early additional resources, as I say, we do have that CTSI award, and that has brought to us a lot of resources in ensuing years that a lot of investigators really have, they aren't even aware that they're out there and available for their use. let's see. As I said, with a scientific review, goes on. Now we have been granted by the various scientific review chairs, the ability to kind of, I don't want to say exempt it, but it does exempt it from the full-on departmental review, because some sort of review has already happened. So one of those things that, so you can see if it's a chart review, if it's federally funded, if there's some other, if it's like a foundation that has a review process, if it is industry sponsored, student projects that have been approved by an advisory committee. Now, this one we do see a lot with some of the research projects that are going on, particularly in the School of Nursing, but not just at the School of Nursing. But if there is a thesis and that you've defended something, or that it has gone through an advisory committee at the school level, if you upload that notification to us, that will take place. Otherwise, we will have to send it through. So if we have something that tells us that it has been looked at for scientific merit, we can send it on through. That is the biggest thing with the scientific review. Again, it's that scientific, it's that merit. So that's basically what they're looking at. Does it look like the plan that you have will support what you're trying to find out? Some departments have an established committee before they even take it any farther. Orthopedics is one of those. They have a lovely little system where they meet all the time, and they upload those decisions from their departmental thing, and we can send those through as well. So it really depends. It is going to go for some sort of scientific review. If it does not meet one of our exemptions, it goes to the department. So registering your study, who is required? So if your home department is within one of the health sciences schools, and we kind of already alluded to this, and also if it meets the NIH definition of a clinical trial, irrespective of the school that you belong to, and if you are doing a chart review within one of the mandated schools. Now, I know with the latest common rule changes, some of those chart reviews became exempt. And again, going back to our reporting responsibility to our affiliates, and including some of the practice plans, we still need the chart reviews in there. As you can see, they're exempt from the scientific review part of things. So they do tend to go fairly quickly, but they are mandated to go in there if you're in one of the health sciences schools. You do not need to if you are seeking a determination of not human subjects research. So if you have a de-identified samples that you're dealing with, a limited data set that is de-identified, those types of things, that it's like, this should be not human subjects research. You do not have to put it into CSR. You can go straight to click IRB. I will caution you though, that if it is determined that it does not meet the criteria for not human subjects research, you will be asked to come back to the registration. I say that you don't have to. I'm not saying that you can't. So if it does not require, and you're just not sure, put it in CSR and go from there, and we can kind of look at things and walk things through. Sometimes they do sit on the fence a little bit. Again, so if you are in one of the non-mandated schools and you are not conducting a clinical trial by NIH definition, it does not require registration. Again, you are more than welcome to put it into CSR. It does identify a lot of resources that are now available that you may not be aware of. I have found the easiest way to get to our site or get into the various systems is basically going to the CRO website. All of these green links are on the side are live links for central registration, our Encore system, our billing compliance, as well as the Click compliance suite. So it's just, I mean, you can bookmark it any way you want, but this is an easy way to get all 4 of them at the same time. Quick do's and don'ts of the system. Register your study early. So again, the 503, if you're writing your own protocol, is preferred, but a study proposal can also be an acceptable upload so that we can, especially if you have identified that there's a lot of things that you need, or if you need help with that protocol development. So, you know, that's one way. Yeah, you've got this proposal, but how do I translate that into the 503? We can help you with that, and there are resources for that. So get your information in there early. We can start on things early. And again, it's all designed to streamline the process and get you up and running with your research as soon as you can. Again, you don't need all of your accompanying IRB forms. You get that as for industry sponsor. You get that regulatory packet, get it in there. We can get things started. The comment option provides additional information or requests, and excuse me, and it's also a mechanism that we can talk to each other through the system. So all of your communication about that, whatever, you know, issue or how things go with that study is contained within the system itself. Again, it's where you're going to upload your scientific review if you have those documentation, if you have that documentation outside of the exceptions. And let's see, excuse me, there's a section at the top that is your study contact for this form. So this is not to be confused with the study team. This is who can sign into the system and see this form and the associated comments and whatnot.
Can I interrupt and ask a quick question about
Absolutely.
getting it started early? We've kind of started to change our procedure a little bit. Normally we would get our IRB process and contracting process going in tandem with budget negotiation, but we've run into some trouble with some of our sponsors lately. This is for pharma studies, where they're being less than agreeable with some of our budgets. And so we've decided to do budget negotiation before we move forward with IRB and regulatory and everything, which I understand other institutions do. And if they just won't work with us on a budget, we're going to decline. In that case, I kind of feel like, do we want to submit to central study registration and potentially have the contract people get a budget underway, have scientific review, and everyone in central study registration having wasted any time doing things if we potentially are going to halt this at the budget standpoint?
No, you can go ahead and do that. Get to like I say, it's once you establish that you are going to be moving forward with that study. So if that is your process to kind of establish that you can get that budget under control, and then you're going to submit everything, then we can get everything else going. If your budget's already done, then that's gravy.
So should we do our budget and then submit to central study registration?
If there's a question that you're going to be moving forward with a study, I would say yes. Okay. If you, I mean, some of the sponsors, are going to hardline you. If it's a new study that you, or a new sponsor that you haven't worked with before, you may not know that they're going to acquiesce to certain requests, and you may want to do it that way. If it's somebody that you've worked with ongoingly and you know that they're going to, allow everything, then I would put it into CSR. It's just kind of if your best thing is that it's going to be moving forward, put it in CSR. If you have any questions, you can hold off. it's just a matter of, like I say, if you've already got a budget kind of established, the only thing I'm going to say with that is the CRO does need to sign off on that budget. So
yeah, I know.
So that's Kara, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, don't make anything finalized. Now, the other thing I will say is, if for those of you who are going that route and or even through CSR doing your own budget, there's always that lovely little thing where you get either a CRO coming back or the sponsor, well, I'm going to have to elevate this to somebody else, to my superiors or back to the sponsor or whatever the line of the day is. Mm-hmm. Feel free to use it. And then, Roseanne can reach out and say, so that it gives you a backup. In
that case, if you guys don't know about it, it makes it more difficult. Is that this case where we would want to maybe put it into CSR with a note, a comment that we anticipate having issues with the budget? So please don't start working on this until I let you know that we're okay with the budget?
I would still, if you're thinking that it's going to be problematic, keep it outside of the system and work with Roseanne directly and just say, I'm going to have to elevate this to our budget people in the central office, and then just get Roseanne involved at that point.
Okay.
All
right. Thanks.
Sure. Okay. So again, the biggest thing here is that study contact. You will see, you may put in one person, and we may add others because we need to communicate with them. So you'll see, if, Kara, you're down as the only study contact for one of Dr. Benedict's studies, we'll add other people who need to, be able to view this form. And that goes doubly on your side. So if you have put nobody here and you are the coordinator that has put this in with a PI, for Dr. Drewski, and you haven't identified a study contact being yourself, you will not be able to see this form. And we do get that a lot. It's like, I've entered everything and I can't see the form. And it's usually because they haven't added themselves as a study contact. This has to do with confidentiality across the institution. So because there are protocols in there, there's contractual information, and there is budgets in there. Somebody from medicine should not be able to see what's going on in surgery unless they have a need to, and have been assigned that ability to do that. Again, it's just not to confuse that with your study team. So the big thing, do not enter it into Click IRB before you register the study. What we do is we have one button that we push that says, enter it into, load into Click. And so we do try to check before we push that button that has not already been entered into the system, but sometimes those duplicate things do happen, particularly if that one question. So there's a question on the form that asks if you've already entered it. So if you have already entered it, you just click yes, enter the study number, and it'll pop up. It goes out to Click and associates what the study title is so that you can assure that that's the correct one. Again, it's not preferred. Sometimes you will get that you put it into CSR to Click first, and you'll get that message that comes back and says, no, you have to register your study. So in this case, that's what you would do. Do not fill out the form, say that, no, you haven't done it, and then go and click to do it anyway. So it's just, once you put it into CSR, remember, we are starting your IRB submission for you. We've got some other things that come in toward the end of the form, and it is just basic resource assistance. So if there is something here that you need additional information about, then you just make a check mark, and on your completion email, you will get additional information. It also allows us to say, oh, you need statistical support. So we'll bring in the people from BIRD and give you that contact directly. Pharmacy will kind of help you with identification early, and this kind of gets things going for you. If this is something that you have an interest in, again, we can help you with that. It doesn't necessarily have to be for the study that you are working on. It gives you that additional information. One thing I will bring you out to is REDCap. REDCap has gone from the School of Medicine, is now a university initiative, and there is support behind not only the creation and maintenance of your REDCap submission, but it also any move to production request. Once you've created something in REDCap, we'll have to go through a governance committee. And basically what that is just comparing the documents. So there is a mechanism in REDCap that you can print the PDF versions of what is seen in REDCap and submit it to the IRB. That makes the review process much easier and quicker. And a lot of this comes into, it's like, okay, another step. The other step came to be, quite frankly, because when we started looking at what was IRB approved and what was in REDCap, there were like complete other questionnaires in REDCap. There were complete other questions. It wasn't represented the same way. So that's why the submission of the PDF versions is now a requirement. You will get a summary email, and basically anything that you've answered yes to in the form, you're going to get some information about it. And what you're also going to see are live links. So the live links, we found there was a lot of information, but when we did poll the investigators and their staff, it was like, I go to the website, I get down a bunny hole, I still can't find what I need. And so we've done the bunny hole for you, and we get straight to the point. So these will take you to either internal or external websites, give you email addresses, contact information, forms that need to be filled out, things of that nature. And but they are live links from this summary email. So, and I know like a lot of people who are used to doing or have, a lot of the coordinators, it's like you're used to seeing this, what do you call it, email that comes back out. But just remember that there are live links in there that can help you along the way. Contacting for help or questions, Maine would be me. Again, it's kind of, like I say, it's my baby. We've been developing this and adding things to it for a number of years since it started in 2017. And there you'll see, I'm going to go for a little bit of a live demo, hopefully here. Let me just see if I can get out of this for a minute. And so the, oops, need to make sure I get this on the right one. Okay, nothing wants to work today. I'm just going to do this here a little bit different. Okay. Okay, hopefully you can see the sign in now. So the sign in is just your UB single sign-on. And this will be the page that you come out to. Again, it comes out to the reminder that if it's not human subjects research or you're going for exempt, you can go straight to the other things to do. Anything that you put in will go automatically into the pending. So you can go into pending and you can go in and out of it as you create your form. It does not require you to do anything. You can change anything until you actually hit submit. Once it is submitted, that puts it on our radar. And we start looking at it at that point in time. Typically, any of the funded studies will go to me. Any of the unfunded studies will go to either Alexis or Marshall for processing. We all do work very, together quite a bit with some of these things and questions back and forth. But that can also be kind of, so you'll see either comments or questions come from one of the three of us. If it is a funded study, it'll most likely be me. If it's unfunded, it'll likely be either Alexis or Marshall. So the big thing you're going to do, the first thing you're going to do is create your new form. You put in whoever your investigator is. Now, I am going to show you one thing here is that we are working with the CTSI on their team science initiative, which is why you're going to see this expertise on the study. So you may see, so Dr. Sethi is a pulmonologist and a critical care medicine man, as well as on the CTSI. So what is his, for this study, what hat is he wearing? That's basically what we need to know. And you can go on. So he's in pulmonary and critical care. That's what he's going to do today. So that type of, that's what you're going to be putting that in. If we do have some where they are, cardiology. That's a good one. So cardiologists, yeah, it's a cardiology, but what are they doing on this? They're doing interventional cardiology. So there is that, that delineation. So, but that's what that's all about there. The other is the preferred email. So whatever is in this email address for the investigator is where any communication from this form is going to go to. This is editable. It will always come up with the default to the UB information, but Dr. Sethi also works at the VA. If he gets everything, if he would like everything to go to him at the VA, he can put his VA email address here. Similarly, you're going to get into your contacts. And these are like totally people who are not. So you can see this person comes up with the UB email address. This is, again, the study contact, but I know that she uses a UBNS address. So I'm going to switch it. So this is basically, this is who this information is going to go to when we end up with the study. You can add as many study contacts as you want or need that will need to see this form. Excuse me. I will encourage you to save your progress as you go along, particularly if you have uploaded things, because if you do, it does have a field verification when you hit submit. And if there's something missing, it's going to wipe out any uploads. So unless you have done the save progress throughout. Your short title, full title, the type of protocol that it is. Again, these are all things that, so if you put it in as it's, we get it a lot, biomedical. and we look at it and it's interventional, we will change it over. We do ask about, is this a clinical trial? Again, the NIH definition of a clinical trial. Any green links will give you additional information as to how we would like that particular field filled out. One of the things that we need to report on for the CTSI is a phase of translational research. Now, for many, it's like, I don't know, it doesn't really, I don't want to take the time to figure it out. We gave you an I don't know option. So based on the type of study it is, we will actually assign that for you. But again, the information is there if you care to figure out a little bit more and try to figure it out yourself, but we will look at that.
Kim, there was a question from the email.
Sure.
It said, can you add to email addresses for contacts with double affiliations?
Yes, you can, but what you will do is add that person again. And they'll come up with that. So you'll have two. And we can actually, and when we put it out, we'll send it to both email addresses. Okay. So the type of protocol, some of those things are going to drop down additional things down here. It is a clinical, I'm going to put it as a clinical trial. So what is the local enrollment goal? If your study or the study is supposed to get 120 patients throughout multiple sites and you are expected to get 6 of them, 6 is the number that I want here. Maximum enrollment goal, sometimes contractually, they will say we would like you to get 10 patients, you can get no more than 15. So that would be it. If it's, that you want to get 6, you can put 6 in there, that's fine. Minimal, we would like you at least to get 1. How long are you going to be enrolling? So we have multiple studies that have very long follow-up times, but how long are you going to be enrolling into the study? Anticipated date that you are starting. This does come up with a calendar, and it's easy to just kind of this, but you do have to pick an actual date for it to show up. Anticipated end date, you may say that you're going to go till June of 25, and if you hit done, it's not going to allow you to do that. You'll see that nothing came in because you didn't pick a day, and we do see this quite a bit as well. We're going to ask you about who's being enrolled into the study and an NCT number. If at all possible, if you know this, please put it in there. If it's pending, that you don't know it right now, or if it's not applicable, just let us know. If we do have it in as pending, we will always check to see if it has hit clinicaltrials.gov. But otherwise we'll haul that out at the end in the email that goes back to you to make sure that it does get to who it needs to at the end. Your objectives, strictly out of your protocol. We ask if you could describe it in lay terms. So between Click, Encore, and CSR, there are varying fields through all of them that will populate the Participate in Research website that goes out to the community. And so the lay terms we will review. If it's not in there, we'll come up with something and it will go back to the study team for approval before it goes out to the website. But if you could help us out there and put what you would like to see go out to the website, that would be very helpful. Again, this is the same thing. They're key eligibility criteria. This is not to list absolutely every little, blood value or this, that, and the other thing. It's like you need type 2 diabetics with an A1C better than 6, male or female. That's the type of just what's the key stuff to so that you can identify this is going to be out to the website. So a type 2 diabetic with an A1C better than 6 can look at this and go, hey, I might be eligible for this. And then they're going to receive some information on who they can contact to go through that minutia of the 23 inclusion exclusion criteria. So, but it just identifies things, you know, very quickly for somebody who may be looking for a research study. We do ask if you are providing compensation. Again, this comes out to helping us populate that participate in research, because there is one that there is a category that is that asks that they can ask for ones that just have reimbursement. So it helps us with that. IRB of record. For the most part, for things happening within the university, it's going to be in the university's IRB. Several of the central IRBs are also in there. If it does not show up, again, you can put in other. I want you to, so something to also remember when we are helping to put this into IRB for you. If it is one of those kind of funky ones or from another institution that may not necessarily be in the click list of, we have to have them added. So we can do all of that in the background. So this is helpful to us and you as we move along, because we can make sure that they're already in there and things are moving down the pike. This is where I told you about the, if you've already put it into Click IRB, and if you have, this is basically what you're going to come into. And I have no idea which one this is, but it goes out to Click. Okay, there may not be one there. Okay, let me go this way because I know this one's in there. Okay. It didn't like that because I hit the enter button, which is kind of like a submit. So anyway, but oops, crap. Okay, it's still trying to, it has to search the database. So, but you will see it come up as the study title will come up here, so you can see that that's what it is. I'm going to move on for the sake of time here. There you go. So you'll see that it does come up, just so you can go, okay, just make sure that I haven't done some sort of an error in putting the number in here, that it is actually my trial. Is this an investigator initiated study? If it's no, please give us the protocol number. Because many contracts require invoices to have the site number on it, if you have your site number, again, for those industry sponsored, usually when you get a regulatory packet, after you've been site selected, you're going to have a site number that's available to you. If you can provide that to us, it is very helpful as we go through the contracts to say, okay, this is the information that they need on an invoice. It saves another call to you later. If you have that information, please put it in. These are all reportable things as far as, the disparities in populations helps us with reporting to not only leadership, but also to both the federal and the state government.
Kim, this kind of comes to a question that was asked in chat. So if changes or inclusion criteria or any other changes like that are made in IRB, should they come back into CSR and make changes?
No, CSR is a mechanism to get things started in a parallel fashion. So once we hit complete on it, we don't go back to it to look at anything. It's not the source record. So whatever is in IRB is going to be, whatever is approved in IRB is going to be your source record. So when you say about inclusion criteria that may have changed, then that comes into, when it comes down to the participate in research, if something has changed that you put in there versus what is now approved, or any time that there is a change with what needs to be represented on the participate in research, then you'll need to get in touch with our Encore folks who can change that out for you. And again, that's why it becomes really important to check out those emails that come out from, it would be Ashley Regling, to say, this is what we're going to put up on the site. Can you please approve it? Okay. Hopefully that answered the question. Okay. Do you need help with feasibility? Do you need help with recruitment? This is identification of additional resources for you. By simply placing a yes in there, you're going to get some information on how we can help with that. Same thing with recruitment. Budget help. So if you require budget assistance, then we will bring our budget analyst, Roseanne Johnson, into play. If you prefer to negotiate your own budget, we will caution you that there are institutional fees. This also does not matter if it is federal or industry. There are some fees that are also applicable to federally funded trials. So it's always best to confer with Roseanne. The other thing is most all industry sponsored contracts will not be signed off on until Roseanne signs off on that budget. So if you are negotiating your own budget and you have not, it cannot be considered final until Roseanne signs off on it. So, don't just so that the sponsor and that may have to be opened back up again if Roseanne has not come in early on it. If you choose no here, I will alert Roseanne to say, they have not asked for budget assistance, please review. And I believe she sends out a list of terms to the study contact to make sure that while you are negotiating, those things are in play. You'll see in some of these instances that there are videos associated. These are 10 to 15, I'm sorry, probably 5 to 10 minute videos that kind of help walk you through some of those things as well that thanks to the CTSI have come into play. So it's just a quick down and dirty as to how things can help that way. Same thing with clinicaltrials.gov. If you are doing an investigator-initiated clinical trial, we need to establish whether it needs to be put onto clinicaltrials.gov or not. We can help with that as well. Lynn Jagosinski is our regulatory specialist, and we can put you in touch with her, and she can walk you through either establishing whether it does need to be registered, or if or how to begin that process. Are you transferring or sharing data outside of UB? And this doesn't include, so it's not if you're transferring it to one of the affiliates, ECMC, Kaleida Health, but if you are working with University of California, Davis, whatever, and you're collaborating there and the research, the data is going back and forth, then if you choose yes here, we're going to start a DUA for you as well. So that gets that undergo. Again, do you want it visible and participate in research? Anything, again, you'll see here, I've got live links as well if you need to kind of go out and see what it's all about. The green links will give you a little bit more information. Are there external sites where the investigator is going to be the PI? So if investigator initiated multi-site trial where a UB investigator is going to be the investigator or the primary investigator, then, or principal investigator, then this would be, if you choose a yes, then we just need to know, is UB expected to be the IRB of record? And again, we can start the conversation to get the reliance agreements in place for that. Investigational drug or the administration of any medication. Any of these drop downs will give us some additional information that we need to fill out somewhere else. If we have asked a question, we need the data somewhere else to stop with the duplicative data entry. And in some of these cases, they are needed in 2 or 3 different places. IND number goes into not only IRB, CRMS, and grants. So there's like, there's a lot of different, it'll go into different places. If you put it here once, we can get into those other places. Who's holding the IND sponsor versus investigator? We do have some investigators that hold their own INDs, and there are some varying regulatory things that need to be brought out in that case. Where are things going to be dispensed from? Most of these, I should say many of these, so our affiliates as well as the CTRC have fees associated with that, helps when we're figuring in budget. Many times, if the sponsor does hold the IND, they may send you the IND letter from the FDA that says this is what's going on. And if you can upload that for us, again, saves you uploading it later on. Same thing happens with investigational device, and you'll see many of the same things. CMS letter is the Center for Medicare Services. So many times that letter is available at the outset. If it is, then you can put it in the IDE letter as well. Genetic testing, all this does is tell you, you need just make sure that you've got, New York State requires some additional language there. This is a big one for us. So if you're obtaining tissue or body segment samples from a non-UB entity, if you are doing liver biopsies at Kaleida and bringing them into UB space, New York State considers that an anatomical gift, believe it or not. So it doesn't mean that it can't happen. It just means that there's some regulatory issues behind that we need to have in place to make it compliant. Are you banking samples? Again, what are you banking? Where are you going to be banking it? And are you going to be sending it anywhere? If you're going to be sending it to, if you've got, I don't know, tissue slides and you're sending it to UC Davis, then you know what? We're going to need an MTA in place. So again, it's identification of all of those other things that you need that we can help with and get things started for you.
When you say banking, does banking mean for future use beyond this study, or is banking,
yes.
Sorry, this is, so just future use beyond the study, not
future use beyond the study, or if that is going to be happening within the study is kind of, so if part of your study is we're going to collect these samples and we're collaborating with University of Miami, and we're going to be sending, these samples, we collect 6 samples and 3 of them are going to go to Miami. We need an MTA in place for that stuff. So it can be both study specific and for future.
But if we have if the study is with Miami. And we have a contract in place with Miami because the study is that we're collecting the samples, we're working with Miami, and we already have that contract.
Mhm.
Because the purpose of the study is that we're collecting the samples to send to them. Is that
Yep.
banking?
It is not, it's not banking in that sense, no, but what we'll do is make sure that the contract covers that material transfer to the other. So sometimes it's like, did they explicitly say in the contract with Miami that, you're going to be sending samples to us?
Okay.
Or do we need to insert that?
Okay.
Okay. These questions are all so that we can complete the grants form, the funding proposal for you. So they usually involve another system that would be required. And so, does it have a known pathogen? So do we need to invoke a safety module? Is it oncogenic material? Is it recombinant? So all of those have safety modules that may be involved. Does it use stem cell? We need to get some stem cell committee in there. And as well as radio pharmaceuticals or anything that is radiological emitting, oh my gosh, radiation emitting imaging. Now this does not, that's as if it's being done on UV space, because that's when the radiology committee would come into play, versus if you're having MRIs done at Kaleida, then that's their own safety issue, and we count on that. So if a safety thing needs to be done within UB itself. Your funding source, this is going to also drop down a few things for us. So if it is, I'm going to say, so if you have a federal primary or a federal sub, and you've been working with somebody in SPS specifically on your grant and the submission of, if you could put that person up in the study contacts so that we can reach out as well there, then that is helpful to us. Many times it's, again, that early identification of, hey, Joe Kraft, there's this primary award coming. Have you made sure that institutional costs are in there, when they're dealing with budgets and things like that. So it just helps us to identify who we need to reach out to at SPS. They've got a lot of people over there. So it does help us that way. If it is industry, a whole nother little fun piece comes up here. So are they working through a CRO or with a CRO? Just to pick which one that is. The industry sponsors will always come up and just pick whatever is appropriate. We may change that depending on what is on the contract. So depending on who the actual person or the thing is within the contract. Credit for the department. This comes down to creating that funding proposal. So we have to make sure that we do that. Many times it's always going to be out to this, but we do have people with dual appointments that they want 50% of it to go to one department, 50% of the credit to go to another. So and you can add additional ones. If you put in, that it's 90% there, then you can add the additional department to make up for the addition or the other 10%. Okay. Because we are going to be starting and submitting the contract for you, this all information is all required in CLIC agreements, and it moves things along much more quickly with the contracts people if they know exactly who they're supposed to be in contact with for their for their study for the negotiation. Budget person may or may not be the same person. If you do have a separate budget person, that can go in there. Otherwise, they'll probably reach out to the contract person for that budget negotiation person. Uploading the draft agreement, the draft budget, and the draft informed consent. Many times I do need the agreement, I do need the budget. Sometimes you don't have the informed consent from the sponsor, the draft at that point. You can upload a blank piece of paper or a paper that says not available yet. But these three will require an upload, and you won't get through verification without it. The study locations, we're going to ask you where things are happening. Again, this comes into the whole thing of being able to report to our affiliates. It's going to be an inpatient study. You're going to be using their EMR, and it's going to be at Buffalo General, so just let us know. This helps us, again, not only with notification, it helps us also to establish, are you credentialed there to do whatever you need to do? Can you see that EMR? It will get the credentialing packet going if need be. Your core study team, you can add your team here, or you can wait till you get into the IRB, or you can add most of the people there if you need to. The long and the short of it is, we push the button at the top, and all of this information is going to go into Click IRB. So their role on the study and their information. Now, what it also does is, at the time of this form processing, I'm going to look up and make sure that there is a COI, a conflict of interest, on file, because the IRB is going to look for it, and they're not going anywhere with your submission until that's done by your whole study team. So again, by early identification, before it gets to that point, I can tell you, Alexis on this team has not done her COI, and it's not going to go anywhere. Until, so you can now reach out to Alexis and say, I'm about to submit this. Can you make sure that this is done? And again, it doesn't hold things up, because early enough that this is going to be a point to ponder when it goes through that intake coordinator in the IRB, because they're going to be looking it up. Let us know who the PI proxy is that you would like to be assigned. That is huge. We can assign it well. While we have control of the IRB submission, once we turn it over to you, then it now becomes that the PI is going to have to do that assignment. You can add as many people as you want. If you do add somebody as a co-investigator, you're going to get, again, this expertise on study. And it's just, again, what is their role? What are they doing for this study? Your protocol upload. This is your protocol and or your proposal. You can also upload anything else that that you're going to need to put somewhere else. Sponsored studies. You get that regulatory packet. Here's my protocol, the investigator brochure, instructions for use on an IDE, whatever it is. All of that stuff needs to go over into the IRB. You can load it here and we'll put it in for you. If you've got it, and you're busy uploading stuff, you can upload it here and we'll make sure that it gets over where it needs to go. But at minimum, we need a protocol. These are the can we help, the additional resources. Again, whatever you click off is, we're going to give you some additional information about it. There are some short videos on the Click and the Encore systems as well. And again, they're like 5 to 10 minutes long. Again, you can save the draft if you have not completed it in full. It does not do field verification at that point, but once you submit for review, it is going to do field verification. And then it's going to tell you, yeah, there's something wrong here. You haven't filled everything out. And then you could go down and see what's missing, and it will read up whatever is delinquent for. And then once you fill that out, you can do that. I just want to, I can go to scientific review here. Oh, it's not going to let me. Okay, so invoicing, we will fill this out from the CRO side of things so that invoices can be streamlined. And as I say, you can see here that it does integrate with Click IRB. This is where we'll push that button to make it go over there if need be. A couple other little things here I want to tell you about. Students may not necessarily all be in the system right off. There is a mechanism when they sign in to say you don't have an account, please request one. It will come here, and then we will add them in. It slows the system down considerably if we have to add 33,000 students. So we add the ones that need when they need it. Reports, as you can see, we can get a lot of different reports from this. So, you know, what's going on or what's coming down the pike in surgery, we can do a department thing for that. This is where we get into our affiliates as well. General report. So I can see Kaleida Health, give me all types and all statuses. Once I do that, this is what we'll go over, and it's in spreadsheet format, and it tells them a little bit about everything. But this is what's going on in their institution. So that's why some of that information is important to us. Translational report, general reports. So like I say, a lot of this comes into helping us get the reporting out there that we need, and helping the investigator and the investigator team to streamline and expedite an identification of resource. Okay, I think that's kind of it in a nutshell. I don't want I know I'm over, and I don't want to, I want to be mindful of everybody's time, but the biggest thing is if you have questions, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help, you know, along the way as I can. With that said, are there any other questions?
The only thing I have to say, and you know, I always have something to say.
Of course, Karen.
You know, I don't like anything new, and I always have a hard time with new systems and getting me to use anything new, but this is a godsend. I really, really enjoy this system. And like you said from the beginning, you don't have to enter things in 14 different systems now. And it really has made it really so much easier that you don't have to start it in Click by yourself, and you don't have to get it to contracts by yourself. This I highly endorse. So thank you for this one.
That was very high praise from you, Kara. I really appreciate that. Thank you. But like I say, anybody, if there's, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I know we went over this very quickly. If anybody needs a one-on-one, I'm more than happy to do it. If you need help with your first submission, you know, you know, we can set up a Zoom link and walk through it together. It is made, this system is designed to make it easier and better for the investigator and their staff. So that's all I'm just going to say is use it for what it is and use it for how it's intended. And, you know, hopefully you'll be our next Kara in endorsing it. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well,
So we just want to thank everyone for attending and be on the lookout. I will be sending a post survey. We just ask that you complete it at your earliest convenience.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.